Hey book lovers, I'm Elise and it's been some time since I posted a video. So after I posted my best and worst books of 2023, I kind of went MIA a little bit. Apologies, that was not intended. I was still active over on Bookstagram, a little bit on Threads. I did post to the community a little bit because I rebranded my channel. For those that are new, I used to be a Virgo Rising Reads and I rebranded to literally Elise. I did a little post about it on Bookstagram with kind of like a Meet the Bookstagram or Meet the Booktuber type post. So yeah, I mean, I guess big reason I decided to do that was because when I started Bookstagram like 2.5 years ago, I chose my username with zero intention of starting Booktube. Since starting Booktube, I've liked my channel name fine, but I wanted something a little bit shorter, something a little bit less of a mouthful, and something that included my name. And I feel like I say literally a lot, and I was kind of playing around with words a little bit, and I'm like, ooh, literally kind of sounds like literally. So literally Elise came to be. I hope you like the change. I love it. I'm really excited about the future of my channel. Again, sorry for going MIA a little bit. Really the big reason that I was gone for so long is because on top of some things that I have going on in my personal life, which I will not bore you with, I moved. Last weekend, that was really the big move. So we got all of the necessities moved over and officially started living here. So this is my new little reading nook, same bookcase. So yeah, long story short, had a very crazy January. I'm ready to get back into things. I've still been reading. I've read 12 books so far this year. No 5 stars though, which is a bummer. What I'm here to talk to you about today is my January TBR. In the month of January, I did read 9 books, which came out to 3,471 pages, and my top 3 moods of the books were mysterious, dark, and tense. That's pretty common for me. I read 4 thrillers, 2 fantasy, 1 romance, 1 literary, and 1 horror. As far as star ratings, average star rating was 3-star. I had 2 2-stars, 5 3-stars, and 2 4-stars. No 5 stars. All right, so let's get into the books. The first book that I finished in January was Never Lie by Frida McFadden. This is a thriller, and it is, oh my gosh, I feel like that was a long time ago. I guess general synopsis, there's this woman, and she's with her boyfriend, fiance, husband, I don't really recall, and they're looking to buy a house. They get to this house, it's really big. I think he's not into it, but she's like, this is perfect. It's like really snowy out. There's like a snowstorm, so they actually kind of get stuck there and they just kind of start staying there. It is dual timeline. There's a second POV, which is like in the past of this therapist who actually used to own the house. And there's like a bunch of tape recordings there of her sessions with her patients that the girl in the present time kind of comes across. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty entertaining. It kept my attention. Overall, for a thriller, I did like it, and I gave that one 4 stars. The next book that I finished in January was Shark Heart by Emily Habak. This is a literary book with quite a bit of magical realism. So in this world, there's this condition that people can get where they essentially start morphing into an animal. So it's kind of like I guess a degenerative disease in a way. You're losing your characteristics and your mannerisms and the things that make you human, and you're transforming into these other animals. And there's counts of people turning into birds and reptiles, and then the main character, he is turning into a great white shark. But there's actually 3 different POVs, really 3 parts to this story that I was not prepared for, and I do want to make sure that I mention that because for some people, myself included, it's a little jarring when you get used to a certain format or a certain timeline or a certain POV that you aren't expecting to change a third of the way through the book, and then it does. So just a heads up there are some POV changes. The second one was my favorite though. I don't generally like reading emotionally heavy books. I hate crying when I'm reading, but I cried. I cried during this book. It was very emotional, kind of in a heavy way, but also kind of a little bit in a slightly heartwarming, uplifting way, but I guess mostly kind of sad and heartbreaking. I thought it was really well written. It has a very unique writing style in the chapters. Most of them are really very short. So I got through the book fairly quickly, and it's a pretty long book. It's just over 400 pages. That one was 4 stars. The next book I finished was Ward D by Frida McFadden. This thriller I did not care for so much. So you're following this girl. She's a med student, or maybe she's doing her residency and she's like on her psych portion of it. So she has to go to this psych ward and be there for a night. It's like her and another med student. And there's all these different patients, and throughout the night, first of all, this whole book takes place in one night. It is dual timeline, so you do get chapters that go back in time to where you kind of learn more about this main character and something that took place in her life earlier, like before she came to this ward. In the present timeline, it's all just one night. And I feel like there's so much that took place in this one night. It was a little much. Ultimately, I did rate this book 2 stars. However, I listened to it pretty quick. I wanted to keep going. I wanted to know what happened. But by the end, I was just kind of let down a little bit. Things didn't really go the way that I don't know what I was hoping for, but things didn't really go in a way that I liked. It's one of those reading experiences where in the moment, I'm like, okay, sure, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. And then at the very end, I'm like, that wasn't fine at all. I didn't like it. The next book that I read was Last to Leave the Room by Caitlin Starling. This one, technically an ARC, although I did read the copy from the library, but I did have an e-ARC for this from NetGalley. This one was weird. Technically a horror. Okay, let me see. I wonder if I put like a synopsis on Goodreads. Not a synopsis, but like summary of my thoughts. Let me rewind a little bit. For Never Lie, I said a fun and fast-paced twisty popcorn thriller. Just when I thought I had things figured out, it surprised me. For Shark Heart, I said such an emotional read. My heart is broken. This writing style was unique and made it impossible to not love this. Oh, just kidding. To not love the characters. Oh yes, the characters. I really enjoyed the characters, especially the characters in part 2. So my review for Word D. I didn't care a whole lot for this one. This book takes place over one evening and it was insanely dramatic, nearly too much. It held my attention, however, the way everything played out wasn't super exciting. Okay, Last to Leave the Room. I have a pretty lengthy review of this one, probably because I had to write a review for NetGalley. So on Goodreads, I said, what would you do if you discovered a doppelganger of yourself? Dr. Tamsin Rivers experiences just this when a mysterious door that didn't exist before appears in her basement lab. The longer her replica stays, the more detached Tamsin starts to feel from her reality. The speculative sci-fi horror was incredibly mysterious and intriguing. In it, we have a research team whose experiments are somehow causing their town to sink. We have rooms that are gradually changing their dimensions. We also have a mysterious door and doppelgangers. Unfortunately, what we don't have is answers. I love when a book can be strange and mysterious, but it's incredibly unsatisfying to be left with so many unanswered questions. Overall, the writing was good, if not a bit slowly paced, and I would say I mostly enjoyed my time with the story. So yeah, I'd say that's a pretty fair summary of my thoughts. One thing that really bothered me is that I had so many questions and none of them were answered. Why was this happening? Because in the beginning, the main character Tamsin, she's like talking with her team because they are noticing that these experiments that they're doing is affecting their town. It's like causing it to sink. And so of course they have concerns about infrastructure and how it's going to affect the surrounding areas, and are things going to crumble and, you know, become completely destroyed. And then there's randomly this door that appears in Tamsin's basement lab at home. It was kind of confusing. Maybe I missed something. That's entirely possible. So if you've read this and you have some of the answers that I'm looking for, please reach out to me and let me know, because I'd love to discuss it further. But yeah, I think between the fact that it was a little slow moving and I was confused. I had a lot of questions. Like the whole doppelganger thing, like, again, why and how? The next book that I finished was Dust by Kara Swanson, which was the January pick for my friend Keisha's book club Revive. And it is a YA fantasy Peter Pan retelling. It is part of a duology. Spoiler alert, I did actually read the second book in February. You see a lot of the characters in this one that you know about from Peter Pan, the movie and the play. So Claire is the main character and her brother was kidnapped a number of years ago. And so she's been looking for him all this time. Meanwhile, Peter Pan, he is roaming around London trying to get back to Neverland. And I guess something happened to Neverland where it needs help getting back to normal. But in order for Peter to get back to Neverland, he needs magic. And Claire is possibly somebody that can help him out with that. So overall, this one, it was fine. It was YA, as I've said many times. I'm usually not a huge fan of YA. I have a hard time connecting. That's not always the case, but usually that's unfortunately the case. And that was the case here. But I mean, I followed along pretty well. There's a pretty good cliffhanger at the end that makes you really, really want to read the second one, which is why I did in February. It was fun to read it with everybody and then, you know, go to the live show and hear everybody's thoughts. I love reading books for book clubs, audiobooks when I have time, because it is always fun to kind of get everybody else's opinions who like just read the same book as you. Overall, I gave that one 3 stars. This next one kind of bums me out a little bit. It is Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. I read the first 4 of this series March of last year, 2023, and it was pretty evenly split between 4 stars and 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This one I didn't enjoy so much. I did end up giving it 3 stars, but it was a little, I don't want to say triggering for me, but Nick and Charlie are going through something that, or they're about to go through something. It's impending that some couples, especially young couples, have to go through, and it's very hard. It's something I had to go through at that age, and it's not fun, and it is a little bit triggering. So I think that possibly has a lot to do with why I wasn't enjoying it quite as much. But there are, of course, pieces of it that I did really enjoy. As always, I love all the different representation that Alice includes in these books. I really like Charlie's sister. She's probably one of my favorite characters, and we definitely get to learn a little bit more about her in this one. The next book is The Locked Door by Frida McFadden. This is my 3rd Frida McFadden. This one follows, oh my gosh, I don't even remember her name. My review on Goodreads. An entertaining thriller, reminded me a bit of A Flicker in the Dark and Just Like Home. The reveal really surprised me. I don't even remember what that reveal is. There is quite a bit of negative fatphobic talk in this, which seemed really unnecessary. I don't remember a whole lot about this. Honestly, I just remember there was a door that she was not allowed to go in. It led to a basement, and her father, that was his domain, which is why I said it reminded me a lot of A Flicker in the Dark and Just Like Home, because they also had like secret areas in the home that growing up she was not allowed to go near. Here again, I don't remember a whole lot about this one specifically. I remember I was mostly entertained, but it's probably pretty fitting that I gave it 3 stars. The next book that I read, I buddy read with my friend Keisha over at A Book Like You, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. That rhymes. I won't go into a whole lot of explanation about this one. It features Selena Sardathian. She was imprisoned, and then she is kind of rescued by this prince, and she's forced to compete in these trials to win her place as assassin of the king. And if she is awarded this, then she has to serve him for a number of years, and then she's free. If she doesn't win this, then she has to go back to prison. Overall, I think I enjoyed it. I saw a lot of Fourth Wing in this, and obviously because this came first, I think that means Fourth Wing got a lot of inspiration from Throne of Glass, which is a little disappointing, honestly. So the story itself was fine. I liked the characters. I am excited to continue with the series. Keisha and I are both, as of right now, intending on continuing reading the next book. And the whole love triangle thing, Chaol versus Dorian, I'm Team Dorian. Chaol, as of right now, is giving me Dane vibes, which is why I think I probably, like, he's overprotective. Not as bad as Dane though. I see some similarities. Anyways, so Throne of Glass, 3 stars. I'm anticipating that as I go on the series, I'm gonna love them more and more, and I've heard that from people that the first 1, maybe 2 books aren't that great, but then 3 beyond is amazing. If that's what you're gonna tell me, then I'm gonna trust you. The final book that I read in January was actually one of the books featured in my Q1 Most Anticipated Releases video, and that is The Silence in Her Eyes by Armando Lucas Correa. This one sounded so interesting. So it features a character who has a rare form of blindness. So she's not blind in the sense that she can't see. She hit her head really hard when she was younger, and it messed up her motion sensors, like receptors, I guess. She can't see movement. Essentially, like, she's only seeing like snapshots. So every time she blinks, it's like the snapshot resets, or she gets a new image every time she blinks. But if she were to look at somebody and not blink, oh my gosh, that dries my contacts out, I can't do that, then they would just remain in that position for the entirety that she has her eyes open. Obviously, this is still an impairment. This is still a disability for her. Very interesting. I've never read a book that has that condition. And she lives in this building. You meet like various characters that are part of her circle. And then there's this neighbor that moves in, this woman that moves in next to her, and she's very mysterious, and the main character she becomes very nosy about this new person in the building, and she's kind of like spying. And so I feel like this has been done before. You know what I mean? The whole obsessing over another woman and just like basically stalking and trying to learn everything about them, and then something happens and only you catch on to it because nobody else is watching that closely. My review on Goodreads, I said this psychological thriller was pretty slow, The concept of the MC making friends with a mysterious woman she can't quite figure out was too familiar to find interesting. And though I liked that the MC had a rare form of blindness and the ending was slightly shocking, my overall experience was not that great. It is really unfortunate because here again, I liked the fact that the main character had this rare form of blindness. I thought that was a really interesting piece to the story. And the ending was honestly pretty shocking. It's just everything in the middle wasn't doing it for me. It was very slow. I'd like to say the ending made up for some of it, and it almost did, but not quite. Unfortunately, that book was a 2-star. However, it is still something that I would recommend people read. So if you are a thriller lover, I would still say give it a go, because that ending might make up for the middle for a lot of people. Well, thank you so much, first of all, for sticking around during my month-long hiatus. That, again, was not planned, and I am so sorry that that happened. I had a reading vlog that I was working on, and I'll tell you what it was about. I was reading the 3 Steminist novellas by Ellie Hazelwood, and then her new YA romance, Check and Mate, and Love Theoretically. I DNF Check and Mate. I gave Love Theoretically 2 stars. And I didn't really like any of the Steminist novellas, so I scrapped the vlog because I didn't want to publish a Ellie Hazelwood hater vlog, because that's what it would have been, and I didn't feel right doing that, so I scrapped it. But that was one that I was working on, and I was pretty much done with it. I was hoping Check and Mate would save it for me, but it did not. Yeah, and then aside from that, I was busy and exhausted and not really able to film stuff. Well, I did film a recently read kind of, it was a combo reading wrap up from November and December, because I never posted my reading wrap ups for those months. And I decided to scrap that one too, because I honestly didn't feel like editing it. And I wanted to have a fresh start for the new year. I didn't want to bring in content from the last year. So that's why I did that. Anyways, future of this channel, I do have one more sit down video to film, which is going to be a book haul, because I do have quite a few newly acquired books that I'd like to share with you. Other video that I'm working on is a reading vlog, and I'm excited about that one because all 3 books were chosen for me, and 2 of them I've never heard of. I'm excited to see where that goes. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I appreciate you guys being here. Please remember to like and subscribe, and until next time, bye.